Hello. I just had to make this video because I can't believe we still have so many people who don't understand what the COVID vaccine was all about. It was about making money. And COVID vaccine is not particularly effective and not particularly safe. And I don't care if they ban me for this because they've already banned me from Facebook for talking about like genocide, but whatever, you know. I'm just I this is the truth. This is the truth. Okay, this is a vaccine that does not prevent transmission infection, and it causes, get this, it causes myocarditis. It causes life-threatening heart disease. Now, what is the risk of you dying from getting COVID? Do you know anybody who have died of COVID? Especially if you're a child, if you're young. Young and healthy people do not die from COVID unless they freaking take the vaccine and then they get myocarditis and then they exercise without knowing they have myocarditis and they fall down dead. Okay, so and yes, if you have comorbidities, you have cancer, you have I don't know, diabetes, your risk of dying from COVID increases. But in general, right, you need you need to be pretty old for it to be a high risk, to be at risk of dying from COVID. In fact, Dr. John Campbell, I didn't find his video. This is off the top of my head. Sometime in 2022, he pulled out what the British government, national, I don't know what their health agency is called, but anyways, the British government data showed that the average age of those who died of COVID was 81 and a half years old in 2020, and the average age of those who died of COVID was 82 and a half years old in 2021. So, and even Bill Gates said the average age of those who died of COVID was above the age of life expectancy. For the United States, back then, that was 78 years old. Today, it's 77. I mean, don't even get me started on that crap, right? So, but as you can see, even Google, even if you Google, and this is a very how do I say? Look at this, minus 21 years old. Like no, of course, they just want to make it as uncertain as possible. So I'm gonna point out something to you, right? So I mean, I made a couple of comments here, and you feel free to read it. But I've actually made like 6 different comments after this, or like one of them like before this one, right? Because I basically spent half an hour and typed up a wall of text, telling him why, but getting into it a little bit too much. But anyways, shadowbanned. So that's why I'm making this video. And listen to this video. What, December 2020, right? Listen.
Herd immunity against COVID-19 could require vaccination rates approaching as high as 90%, according to top U.S. infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci, who on Thursday admitted that he had increased his earlier estimates. Fauci's revised figure came in a New York Times interview on Thursday.
Okay, you heard it right. Herd immunity. There was no herd immunity. The COVID vaccine didn't prevent infection. It didn't prevent transmission. I would hope everybody knows this by now, right? He lied. They lied. Now, you might think, hey, he just didn't know. They didn't know. Well, let me tell you something. Okay, here. In June 22nd, 2021, right? They were
is in the last few weeks, and it's because of the.
They were still saying, if you're vaccinated, you're safe. If you're not, you're at risk, meaning you wouldn't get sick if you were vaccinated. And let me tell you, they were talking about herd immunity, meaning that if 90% of the population got vaccinated, that COVID wouldn't spread. It would stop COVID. It would it'd be like the herd immunity you get from, like, say, the smallpox vaccine, and you eradicate the freaking smallpox, like you eradicate COVID. Anyways, I'm gonna show you the testimony, right? Let's
could be reinfected.
Let's listen to this testimony, right? This is a congressional testimony. Jim Jordan, I'm a leftist, so we're completely opposed, but ideologically opposed. But this is he's just talking facts. Deborah Burrs, she worked for Trump during his first term. So she's the doctor. Okay.
I knew that people who were naturally infected were getting reinfected, and that was quite evident from South Africa, and I've included it in my slides. But I think the reason I knew that is South Africa did a remarkably good job in measuring baseline antibody with their first surge. And so they knew 50, 60, 70% of some of their population had been infected.
Well, here's what I'm concerned.
And then were reinfected.
Well, here's what I'm concerned with. Let me ask the question this way. When the government told the American people that people who had been vaccinated couldn't get it, were they guessing or were they lying?
I don't know. All I know is there was evidence from the global pandemic that natural reinfection was occurring. And since the vaccine was based on natural immunity, you cannot make the conclusion that the vaccine will do better than natural infection, although it can often do slightly better.
But I think you're an expert. You were on the task force. You were part of this effort when you were in the previous administration, and you're saying in this administration that you can't rule out the fact that our government was lying to us when they told us the vaccinated could not get the virus.
I don't know about their discussions that they had in the task force. So I can't tell you that. I can tell you as a family member who had individuals that were susceptible.
Okay, so I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to go into it, but let's go over what she said. She said by January 2021, they know from South Africa that they've had populations with 50, 60, 70% infected, and that they were getting reinfected. So at this point, South Africa was having its like 50, 60, 70% of their population infected with COVID. What percentage of U.S. American population do you think was infected at this point? Or world population at this point? I'm going to guess it's going to be around 50, 60, 70. Because, this is a airborne virus, kind of like the flu. And in the case of at least Omicron, it was even more more infectious than the flu. Like if you had flu-like symptoms during Omicron, chances were you had COVID rather than a cold. It's more likely for you to have caught COVID rather than a cold. So anyways, but let's not go there. We're just not. Let's. Okay, so this is a very infectious disease that's been circulating for a year. By January 2021, at least a year. In fact, it has been circulating since 2019, probably like August, September, because it came out of Wuhan Institute of Virology. They had some kind of military games where some American service member went to have like some sort of Olympics, competition, some kind of sport competition over there, and then they brought this stuff back. Like I personally believe I had a severe case of what I thought was the flu in December 2020, in December of 2019 or January 2020, somewhere around then. It lasted for weeks, and I felt very bad, but it wasn't life threatening. Like I got the chills or something, and it was bad, but it wasn't life threatening. And the truth is, at this point, I imagine everybody knows that children are not particularly susceptible to COVID. In fact, children are more likely to die from the flu than they are from COVID. This is statistically what they showed in 2021, that children were more likely to die from the flu more children died of the flu than of COVID. So anyways, okay, so I'm getting distracted. So what I'm saying is, okay, right? So according to Bill Gates, in his he went on an interview and said the average age of those who died of COVID was above the age of life expectancy. Life expectancy back then, 78, 77 today, but okay. You can see even the Google, the NIH is putting out 63 plus 20 years old, or plus or minus 20 years old, right? So it's you don't have a comorbidity. Your chances are it's like not it's like getting the flu. Yet they want you to take this vaccine, which puts you at risk of getting a life-threatening heart disease. And they lied to you about the efficacy of the vaccine. They lied to you about the origins of the vaccine. They lied to you about all kinds of things when it comes to COVID. But yet you're supposed to believe what they're telling you next. So they said, right, the COVID vaccine would give you herd immunity, and it would prevent transmission, and you wouldn't get sick, you wouldn't get infected. Lies that became apparent. They couldn't push that lie any longer, so they moved the goalposts. They moved the goalposts and said, hey, no, actually getting vaccinated will reduce your chances of getting severely ill or hospitalized or what was it? Of death, right? From severe illness, hospitalization, and death. And you believe that? They just lied to you about COVID, about the COVID vaccine, and moved the goalposts, and you believe it. You just believe that. Where's the proof? How many people do you know died of COVID? How many people do you know were hospitalized for COVID? But you're supposed to believe that? You just do your own, like look around. Who do you know died of COVID? Who do you know got hospitalized? I'm not talking about like indirectly. Just people you know. Just the people you directly know. You have direct contact with. Your friends, your family, your relatives. How many of them got hospitalized or died from COVID? Me personally, zero. How many people do you know? Do a rough calculation estimate of how many people you know. How many family members, how many relatives, how many friends. And now you have a rough estimate of how threatening COVID is to you. I mean, when they say that the vaccine will prevent hospitalization 95% of the time or whatever, what does that mean? So out of a 1,000 people, one person is hospitalized for COVID. Let's say something like that. And if you take the vaccine, then if everybody takes the vaccine, then it drops. It drops to half a person, or out of 2,000 people, only one person now goes to the hospital because, or I mean, whatever it is, it's like, is that really all that big of a deal? And it's like, because I remember back in the day, right, on NPR, right. I listened to NPR and they were saying, oh, the hospitalization for children increased by 400%. What is 400%? How many children were hospitalized for COVID previously? So if it was 1 before, now it's 4. In all of, and this was NPR in San Diego. This was a report I heard on NPR in San Diego. And I believe it was 2023 or 2022, one of those. And it's unbelievable. Like they were fear mongering. They were just fear mongering, and people just believed it, and people are still believing this stuff. And when I push back and I say, COVID vaccine is more harmful than beneficial, well, here it is. You can get myocarditis, you can get a heart attack for taking that vaccine. But what is the benefit for your average person, for your, for normal healthy people, right? Unless you have comorbidities, you're not even at risk of dying. And if you do have comorbidities, I know some people who can't even take the vaccine because they have like some severe respiratory problem or severe allergies, and if they take the vaccine, they actually risk getting really, really sick. So it's just basically it's not. The COVID vaccine, in my opinion, is just a bad deal. And did you know that the EU bought 10 doses of mRNA COVID vaccine for every man, child, man, woman, and child, every person in the EU, 10 doses, like at the basically at the beginning of the, in 2021, I believe it was, I don't know if it was 2020 or 2021. They paid billions of dollars. There are huge incentives to push the COVID vaccine narrative. And the FDA, you know, they're paid for it by the pharmaceutical industry. That the British health agency, their regulatory body, that they're paid for by the pharmaceutical industry. This is like that all over the world, probably in EU, probably in Australia, probably wherever. And you want me to believe, after all the lies they put out, to believe them and say, oh, you know, COVID vaccine is mRNA vaccine is safe and effective, and I should take it. No, I'm sorry. No. They've been lying all along, and now all of a sudden they moved the goalposts, and I'm supposed to believe them. So this is just my rant. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys realize that the pharmaceutical industry is one of the biggest, one of the most powerful, wealthiest, most powerful special interest groups in the United States. Hell, one of the most wealthy and powerful special interest group in the world. And they're pushing this crap. And yeah, like I said, look at Africa, look at Asia. How many of those countries didn't get the vaccine and they're doing just fine? They're not like dying in droves. Yeah, I really should end this. Thank you for listening.